Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh, yeah. Welcome out once again. This is no other than the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Power Media. In case you didn't know, we are bringing you that boom bap breakfast. And this is Women's Wednesday. And we got the women here. So let me introduce you. First, we got no other than Jackie Lukman. And Ricky Ryan. Yeah.
That's the special, extra special Holy Christian.
So hold up. So I'm just what is this?
You're here for
What are you
production.
doing
We
here?
talked about this yesterday.
No, we did. And
Here.
I would have never agreed to just be sitting in the back doing nothing, not getting introduced. Nobody say hello. Nobody say good morning. I'm just here to push buttons. Nah, B. Never that. I never agreed to that. Would never have agreed to that.
He's not a woman.
Good
What are
morning.
you
Greeting
doing
everybody.
without
And if you get to say good morning and greet everybody, you're not a woman either. Why do I gotta sit in the back? All right, man. All right, peace, everybody. Have a good show. Peace. I just hang out in the back.
I told you testosterone Tuesday, energy to Women's Wednesday.
I'm serious. That was just like,
We had a whole discussion yesterday.
my feminine sensibilities are,
That was a bit aggressive.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
I feel attacked.
Hey, I'm just here to serve the women today. That's all I come here to do. I get y'all stuff together, what y'all need. I'm here. How are y'all doing today, ladies?
Yeah, here we are.
That was quite an opening. But yes, I'm good.
Yes.
Word, we got a Lucretia said she'll be here in a minute.
Come back. The non-woman can come back.
So you're inviting her back?
It's okay. The non-woman can come back, I guess. He is here.
He is here.
I
I didn't know he wanted to get on. I told him,
That's
listen,
okay.
all you gotta do is push buttons.
It's look, we're an all-inclusive bunch, and since I'm a trans woman now, I don't see a problem.
I'm here to wash feet. James said it.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
Jared, you gonna come back? Oh man, look at that. I even give you an introduction. Yeah, fuck yo, I ain't. Ouch.
Well, then I go to the bathroom and you start talking trash.
No, hold on. Jared Ball.
See how I get treated around here? It's all good. What's
up, Jared?
I don't mind pushing the buttons. I'll push the buttons. I just thought I'd at least get somebody to say hello to somebody. I'm like, I don't even get a greeting into something. All right.
Because they show up late, Jared. I'm trying to let you know.
But why do I have to be punished for being on time and being prepared? Why I got to be punished for that? But okay, listen, greetings, everybody. You all have a great show. Just tell me what to do, when to do it. I'm happy to serve.
You stay right there, Jared.
I'm happy to serve.
So, how are y'all doing today? Ricky.
I am good. My week actually starts today. I just got back at 2 this morning from Florida. So if I look crazy, it's because of that. But yeah, so emails are flooding in now that the on break message is on.
Okay. I see who else has been on break. Lucretia Williams.
Woo!
Is it Lucretia Williams or Lucretia J? I'm confused.
I don't know who Lucretia. Okay.
It's both.
Maybe
don't
that's
know.
the stage name. Is that the stage name? Is that when you Sasha
no.
Fierce?
I think you're giving me more credit than it is. It's just my middle name. So,
Oh, okay. Look at that. Learn something new every day.
So, yeah.
And
I have not been
what's your
on
middle
break.
name? Jesus?
I have been on the opposite of break.
Johannesburg?
Nope.
Jesus.
Why are you bringing the Lord into
Why?
this?
Johannesburg. The Lord is always in the
no.
building, Jackie.
No, the
Amen.
Lord does not want to be involved in some of our
Not in all
shenanigans.
buildings. Some buildings.
Not in-
No.
Hallelujah. All right.
Okay, what did I
Anyway,
walk into? Like,
I don't know.
Um,
I don't know.
look you go. Hi, everybody.
Listen, I'm blaming this all on Jared. He came through and nah. He hyped us up this morning. We are hyped. We are ready to go. We got a great show. Jackie, what about you? How's everything going with you? You know, I seen you yesterday.
I am not sure. I am listening. I'm okay. I guess I'm okay this morning, but there's a lot going on. I get to host Daruba bin Wahad at my house tonight.
Really?
That I just I don't know what kind of life I don't know what I did to please the ancestors like this, but I'm like, cool. I thank you. I'll do it. So that's cool. It'll be an interesting night.
Yeah, hide your silverware.
It'll be the what?
Big up to Daruba, man. You know, y'all got me on one this morning.
Oh my gosh.
So speaking of Daruba, we all went. Shout out to Daruba. Shout out to Dr. Bolden. Shout out to Net for Freeman. We all got to hang out a little bit yesterday at Net for Show. That's why I wasn't able to make the remix. I had to deliver Daruba to DC, and I will be doing that again this evening. So I'm just producing and chauffeuring. That's
pushing buttons and driving.
We stopped through a dispensary though. And I want to say shout out. I got to give a shout out to Big Man at Gifted Curators, and I'm gonna be back. Like I'm gonna be back because I was challenged, and my man said you cannot drink this all in one sitting and be functional. Not only did I do that, so I just want to let him know, not only did I drink that,
Talk that talk.
knocked out some of the edibles on top of it. I'm like, that's why I can't, like, it's too, step your game up, Gifted Curators. That's what this is. Step your game up. I'll be back. I'll come see you. I got another, I'll be back to see you. Would you talked all this trash? Oh, he can't. Gobbled this down real quick. Not a problem. And so shout out to everybody in Gifted Curators and the trash talkers I told him it was a good sale. He said you can't. I bet you can't handle that. And I was like, all right.
Oh my God, you gonna have that man reconfiguring that formula.
They're gonna have to redo the batch.
So that it puts everybody else in the hospital.
I was like, it was just basically lemonade. I was like, what is this? What is this?
He hit him with the funny thing about me, Joe Rogan, is I smoke crack.
All right, I heard that too. That's funny. That's funny. And shout out to Candy Rain. I heard that too. Go ahead, Casey. I'm trying to be mature. I'm trying to elevate. And Candy out here saying pause. All right, go ahead, Lucretia. All right, everybody. All right.
Like, it depends on who you meet at the dispensary, because not everyone knows like other people's tolerances, right? So they'll be like, yeah, take this and you'll be on the floor. And so yeah, my partner's in the same boat. She's like, nothing's going on. What's happening? They're like cancer patients use this. How about you use this? So she was like, give me some of that. It worked.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh, did it?
You need some RSO.
She and I need to talk. Okay, let's wrap. Yeah. Let's wrap because not only did it not put me on the floor, I didn't even need to sit down. I mean,
okay,
you're
similar.
I'm like, let's.
He's different. Yes, he's different.
And so yes, Candy, pause, and yes, Cynthia, I'm gonna be out of here in a minute. Ugh.
I You see, this is what I get, Jared. This is what I get when I'm here and I'm just trying to produce. It's like, why are you here on Women's Wednesday? I guess I got to find a woman
I'm leaving.
producer.
I just wanted to. I just needed to
I don't
let.
think we've ever said that, have we?
No, the chat room.
I
has.
might
The
have
chat says that.
You know the chat's always right.
Well, you know, we can't control the chat, so
Yeah, that's not what we're here for. Yeah.
then yeah, you know, the chat is it's the purest form of democracy that we can.
Oh.
All right, ladies. So you know I like to ask out of the nowhere question
Oh,
that
boy.
get you on your toe.
Oh boy.
All right, so you know, seeing that a lot of sisters are in college now, and there's not too many brothers in college like the sisters are doing, and they getting careers and getting making more money than men some places nowadays. You know what I mean? As in being able to get jobs, going to college and stuff like that. Let me ask you something. How would you feel about having a home husband? You know, as in he takes care of the house and everything while you make the money. Since it's kind of not like it was back in the day when men made all the money and women stayed home and took care of the house. How would you feel about having a house husband?
Is this a real question? Did you really you really like thought about this? And because that was my whole, well, not my whole marriage, but that was I mean, Abdus Shahid was a truck driver. He didn't make a lot of money. I knew he didn't make a lot of money when I met him. When I met him, he was literally like renting a room in a house, and he was like, "This is fine for me. My kids are grown. I don't, you know." I'm like, "Okay, cool. That's great." And so because he drove trucks that hauled construction waste. I mean, when the construction site shut down, he didn't work. So in the winter, when there was snow and a lot of rain, he didn't work. So that brother was at home while I was going to work. He was at home taking care of the dog and while I was going to work. And that was a conversation we had before we got married. You know, he was like, "Look, I don't make a lot of money. I don't have a lot of, and this is why, and this happened." And I'm just sitting there looking at him like, "Nigga, I ain't asked you none of that."
I think that's key to conversation.
I did not ask you none of that. I can see you ain't gotten too much of nothing. And somehow I'm still here with your cute stuff. Shut up. Come here, give me some.
Ricky don't look like she having it though.
No, I'm maybe I'm delirious. I was so amused by the lead up to that question. It was just topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
Didn't know where we were landing. So it landed in house husbands from Black women being enrolled in college more than men.
Yeah, I didn't know where that was.
I'm processing the landing.
It's happening in these colleges. It's a lot of sisters going and guys aren't, and they're not getting those jobs that bring in the big money. They getting labor jobs.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. I think it's question. I have issues with the pay Black women more thing too, but it's not. We can't say Black women are out here making tons of money as college graduates either. But yeah, I don't know. That's not my situation, so I can't really say. I'm not. I'm not kept, and I'm not keeping anyone, so I can't really speak to that right now. But I will say though, I've always said housing is a domestic issue, like in terms of how affordability, why people even end up shacking up, because ain't nobody making no money. So let's just bring in two incomes and things like that. Those become, part of the relationship. They become economic issues. So I always argue around everybody should get paid more, so that we can do certain things. But I don't know. I don't think it's that. My dad, my mom essentially kept my dad for a bit when he lost his job. She was the only one working for about a year. He worked for New York Life Insurance for about 25 years and then lost his job. And then when he was sick, she was the only one making an income. So, I mean, he was sick, so I wouldn't say he was kept, but that, dynamics and situations of a household shift and change. And I think that should be accounted for. There might be a time when he does stop making money, and then what?
Okay. What about you, Lucretia?
Yeah. Well, my my mom had that situation. Like, yeah, she was a kept woman, which they talked about and enjoyed. And my mom was like, find you a person that will do that for you. And that's what I did. So um, it works. Yeah, it's great. But also, people can
So
just
it
like
works. I bet.
it works. Like,
So
Great.
you keep the house right.
yeah, I mean, we both do
Okay.
it, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm primarily pet mom, so yeah, yeah.
A pet
Mm-hmm.
mom. Okay.
But
Because
people
sometimes.
should be paid more, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's designed for so you need two people, whether you are romantically involved or not. Like, or you live in a house with four roommates. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
I just hear that the respect is lost for the man when he's not pulling
Oh
in, and
Lord.
Well, because
I'm
I
not
hear it.
there. I don't know.
You,
I don't.
I mean,
No.
this is what I hear. I'm just saying, it's like respect is lost for the man. But the fact is, Jackie, you had that conversation up front. Be like, this is what it is. I understand. I'm not here with you for that. I love you. Blah, blah, blah. So you had the conversation. So I get it. But a lot of people aren't having that conversation. And
I don't even think it's about having a conversation. I really think it's a level of indoctrination that we don't want to let go of. And it's also like immaturity on people still believing that relationships are this like Disney thing where you're gonna fall romantically head over heels in love and you're gonna live happily ever after. And people don't grow out of that Disney mindset of relationships and understand that the happily ever after is bills and laundry and dishes and
Bill,
kids if you got them and arguments and disagreements and chaos and things are good. There's no happily ever after where life doesn't happen to everybody in the house and shit goes down and difficult decisions have to be made, and one of those difficult decisions is, what if one of us loses our job?
mm-hmm.
And that's just a real thing. So in this weird, not weird, in this environment, in this society where where the empire is crumbling and they're doubling down on their oppression to hold on to their grip of power, like, why are people still worried about how much the dude has? Like, everybody's broke. Everybody's broke except for those 17 black podcasters who are lying to you about how much money they have.
So
Everybody's broke. So
it's a partnership. It's a
it,
partnership.
it is. And this is like almost what, a 20-40-year-old narrative. They were talking about this stuff on Oprah. Oprah had that show where she had the black women on with the degrees and they sitting on the stage talking about black men ain't shit. They can't get a degree. They not on my level. And that pissed even Oprah off. Even Oprah was like, because a couple of the brothers in the audience got up and it was like, wait a minute now. Come on, you know how we get treated in society. We have a hard time. Look, I may not have a degree, but I'm working. I got a job. I work with the city sanitation. I'm a bus driver, whatever. And that wasn't good enough for these chicks. And Oprah, of all people, on her own show, it was actually a special that she did. They were in an auditorium. And Oprah, in her own special, stopped when the black women interrupted the men who were trying to defend themselves. And Oprah was like, wait a minute now, y'all can't have it both ways. And she's telling the women this, y'all can't have it both ways. You can't. And I think Oprah did this, and even what's her face, the crazy woman, Iyanla Vanzant, she did the same thing. Hey. And she was like, y'all sisters, y'all can't have it both ways. Y'all can't talk about black men ain't shit. But then when black men stand up and tell you, wait a minute, this is what we're dealing with and we appreciate your support, you can't then turn around and shut them down. You can't have it both ways. So I've been feeling like that about this narrative forever. Okay. Like, y'all, you can't, if you want to be kept by a man, then you need to go find a rich man to keep you and leave it at that. That's your thing. You do your thing. And stop telling other people what they need to do in relationships, because other people are not on that crazy, I need to be kept tip. And if you are, cool, do that. But you do you. in this whole relationship advice industry where you're telling people, oh, you can't respect a man who doesn't work a job. What universe are y'all living in?
So you don't believe in alpha males, beta males, and all of that nonsense, Jackie? Oh my goodness.
Do you have a say? Do you have a say on this, Jared? Anything?
Does he? I'm interested.
I know. Let's
Welcome to Women's Wednesday, Jared.
Let's hear what non-woman
What a
has to
question.
say.
I have never felt that my manhood was attached to my income, and I have never felt that a woman worthy of me would feel that way either, and vice versa. So when my wife and I first got married, I was a primary breadwinner. She finished her getting her bar passed and all that, and her career established, and that was the way it was. And as she caught up and surpassed and has done her thing, I keep waiting for her to make one more raise so I can quit for real. And then, but I will say this: there was about a year and a half, almost 2 years, where her job took her out of our house for most of the week. She had to work away from home. And yes, I had a lot of help. And yes, I was in the urban, in Ray Wimbush's Urban Institute. So I had no classes to teach for a bulk of this time. So it worked out well. But what I used to think I wanted, I realized it's a lot harder than I think people realize. This house husband thing I used to talk trash about wanting to be, when you have to basically take care of 2 children by yourself and do all of that and all of the chores and all of the school and all of the driving and chauffeuring. And I had a lot of help with in-laws and all that other kind of stuff. It was still a lot. And I was like, I'm good. I am good. I'll go back to work if my wife will come back home and help balance this out. So unless you have it, so like where you having the nannies and all the other real help and all of that, where you could really just lay around and eat bonbons, it's not what I used to fantasize. So, and yes, everybody should be paid more. Everybody should have more health care. It shouldn't be one or the other. It should be everybody has as much time as they need or don't to take care of their family and to do their job and to rest and do whatever creative interests and blah, blah, blah. But
well, that is what it is. We starting the Remix Morning Show off. Real quick question. I've been there. I've been the house husband. I know how to cook, clean, take care of kids, everything. Especially with DJing. Ain't no damn way I'm going to get a steady.
And it's more work than people think, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I respect it all the way. And the respect wasn't the same because it was still one of that mentality like, yo, you supposed to be. I was like, well, this is the life I chose, and you chose to be with me, so you knew what it was. All right.
I'm so sorry.
Is that how you and Abbas had to talk?
Huh?
Is that the conversation you had?
Like I said, it's that fairy tale thoughts of how it might be, and it's like you don't have the conversation up front, then it's confusion, and it happens.
That is so weird, because the first time I saw Abbas do laundry, that was like the most exciting thing in the universe for me, because I hate doing laundry. And he loved doing laundry. It was the weirdest thing. But I came home from work one day. He wasn't working because it was raining. That day I come home from work. I don't see him upstairs, downstairs. Dog's not here. They're not outside. I'm like, what the hell? The laundry machine, the washing machine is going downstairs. I'm like, what is going on? I go downstairs. This man has gathered up every piece of worn, dirty clothing in this house, and he's downstairs just as happy as a clam, washing all the clothes, folding everything up, putting it in. I'm just standing there like, are you serious? And he's just like, yeah, I love doing laundry.
It's meditative. I'm telling you, I love folding clothes while watching TV.
And he had his music on. He's singing to the dog, had his snacks, him and Brewski snacks right there. They are folding clothes. It's great, but he was like, girl, how does one person have this many drawers? I don't understand. What are you doing with these?
All right.
And I'm like, how does one man not have more drawers than you do? I don't understand that.
How about that? Well, listen, we're going to go ahead and get to the Remix Morning news and all that. First, we're going to take a break. So make sure y'all go to Patreon. Well, I'll tell you on the break. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Once again, welcome out, y'all. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And yes, y'all are tuned into the right channel. This is the Remix Morning Show on Black Power Media. Not the other channel that's talking about their Reloaded. This is Black Power Media. So make sure if you got an email, no, this is where you want to be. All right, with that said, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, go to patreon.com, become a member over there and get footage that's rare. And yeah, we got some new stuff that's going to be dropping next week on Patreon. So y'all make sure y'all are ready for that. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get to a remix on the remix right here on the Remix Morning Show.
Cruising down the Ave with my homeboy Groove, laying back like Jack Mello in the big groove. Greatest man alive was cold rocking my world. Then it rocked a little harder when I saw you fresh block girl. But hold up, don't go out like nothing. I had to conjure up a cool way to strut. They call me ES, the overlord of fresh. I saw you in the dress and I just had to be dressed. Compliment came through in the clutch. She started to blush and then I knew what was up. Called the next morning, said what'll it be? Then I end the movie, you're just chillin' with me. She said, hey. So I went and got the Slimmy. As soon as I opened the door, she said, give me. It was like I was a bone and she was clutching. She got a go swallow my ones like Baby Gretchen. Then after a couple weeks of good love of my friend, she did the dummy move. She started asking for give it.
All right there, as you can hear in the back, we got no other than 3 Times Dope coming straight out of Philly. This was released in 1988 off their album Original Stylin'. 3 Times Dope, that is Funky Dividends, mixed with a little bit of 1971 Rufus Thomas, do the Funky Penguin off his single album. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get back to the remix crew. You know how we do. Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, Funky Penguin. We had so many dances throughout the musical lifetime, and that was definitely one. I don't know how to do the Funky Penguin, but I did see Rufus Thomas do it one time on stage when he was performing, I think, at Watts Stacks, the outside concert they had. But I digress. Y'all ain't
that is actually somebody I've never heard of.
Rufus Thomas?
Yeah, I don't think
I haven't, no.
Yeah, go check.
No, I don't know anybody of those people.
Okay.
Interesting. Thanks for that.
No problem.
I wish Kim was here.
I know. I was like, she knows 3 Times Dope. And, yeah, you know. All right, but let me get on out of here and I get y'all ready for some news. Peace.
Sweet. So, shall we slap the map, ladies?
Do we have a map?
Do we? Oh, that's right. I don't think we have a map.
Oh shit.
Oh.
Over here.
How do you feel about that map, remixers?
Wow. So what are we supposed to say about that? Tap the badge? What? I don't like it.
News break.
But it's a badge
of honor.
Well, we'll convene about that later on.
Honor. Oh my God. Anyway.
But we moving along, as you can see.
Yes. Let's move it along. Who's got the first story?
Yeah, well, first, welcome to Women's Wednesday. It is
Hiram says, here's the news, job suckers.
I'm telling you, I'm working a lack of sleep here.
Same.
This morning. No, welcome to Women's Wednesday. It's May 15th, 2024. I actually know the date. Finally. Tomorrow's Sharice's birthday. Hey, shout out to CBS. But yeah, it's been a busy, active week. So I guess we can get into these stories. I'm here with Jackie Luqman, Lucretia. We got Jab in the back. I'm Erica Canes. And we can go ahead and start. I have a few stories. So you can pull up anyone and we can discuss it, Jab. I think we can start with the Kassan Brigade. Oh, well, we'll start with this one. That's fine. Today, because we've been talking so much about the encampments, hopefully we'll have someone come on from MIT and talk about what's been going on there. But today starts the virtual court support for protesters arrested at GW encampment. Jackie and myself has talked about the several days that we've spent with those students at GW in support, doing teachings on campus. The last day that we happened to be there was when they busted up the encampment hours later. So a few got arrested, and today at 9:30 a.m. is a virtual court support. Also, tomorrow and Friday are the same day. So if you can show up, you can go to www.dccourts.gov/citation. Please show up, make your name, support for Palestine protesters. Please have your mic and cameras off, and do not send messages in the chat. Don't be disruptive, but do show up and have support so that the courts see that they are not sole figures and that the students are supported, and they can drop these charges as soon as possible, Lord willing. So that we can go to the next story. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that, Jackie, about what's going on currently. I mean, the students have still been activated. That encampment has been busted down. I know that they went to the dean's house. They took it to the house. The whole rally and march to the house. They've since been still connecting with other students. So it's still things that are happening in spite of that, and as well as the court support for the protesters and students that were arrested. So I'm happy to hear from a lot of them that nothing has really stopped. I've seen that they've still been going, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the great thing about this action is that you can do it while you're doing something else, because you don't have to actually engage the hearing, because we don't want people to engage the hearing, because we don't want people pissing off the judge, right? Because this is a court hearing. So we don't want to make anything worse for the students, but we do want the court reporters, the judge, everyone in court to see that these students are not alone. So all you have to do, you can do this while you're at work, you can do it while you're, at school, have another tab open with the DC Court live stream, change your name to Support for Palestine Students, and just turn off your mic and your camera and just sit there and just let it run, so that they see that there's all of this literal support for the Palestine students, so you can do it without any effort and without any distraction from from whatever else you're doing, but you can show support. So see, there's something for everybody to do in these moments of intense organization and agitation. So fantastic. Thanks.
I guess that lead me to the next story about the brigade, the Kassan Brigade. Primarily because I think there's a lot of discourse happening, and I understand that too, because the focus on the encampments, while we should be supporting these students, I do think sort of removes a focus on what's actually happening with the resistance, right? And I think Rafiki spoke about that. I mentioned it last week when he said, the day that the encampment got busted, in fact, he gave a really, really powerful speech. But in that, he talked about the difference between or naming things student-led revolutions, right? And not understanding students being a spark, and things like that. So I'm sorry, I just got a wild message that threw me off. Not understanding students being a spark for what's happening, but the real, not the real, but the actual resistance has been and ongoing and has been occurring. And there has been, as you see this headline, strategic setbacks for the U.S. Israel as the resistance axis gains ground in Syria. But then also the Cradle reported yesterday that I do think it's important to note as we read through this to see how expansive them gaining ground has been, that they reported that 7 Israeli soldiers were killed, unalived. I guess I don't want to say killed. Were unalived yesterday. So there has been traction. IOF soldiers are now back in the north after having repeatedly said that they have captured and gained territory in the north. They're now back in the north. So they're being split up in all type of ways that they cannot really hold down Rafah, which is why you see them attacking it the way that they are currently. But they're being spread really thin. So I can read part of the article. For several years now, the presence of the region's axis of resistance forces in Syria has remained vulnerable to the U.S. and Israeli attacks across the country from east to west. The U.S. has persistently attempted to disrupt the communication routes along the Tehran-Beirut axis, through which the Damascus plays an important link. Sorry, I can't really see. Starting in 2017, after eliminating ISIS from the key border crossing axis, forces have safeguarded passage of vehicles through the vital Al-Qam, Kamal Road, and effectively established rules of engagement in eastern Syria, gradually limiting Washington's tactical flexibility and dominance. This was a strategically important development, maintaining a foothold west of the Euphrates River to the far southeast of Syria continues to be essential for both state and non-state actors in the resistance. We can end it here. I just want to know why that's particularly important, because we say from the river to the sea, but Rafiki says it from the border. So, he the hair goes up from the top of Syria to the and that's important, because when we say river to sea, I think that gives it a limitation, particularly in not understanding what Israel's actual goal here is. And it is to regain what was once the Greater Syria, which is why they are attacking Lebanon, which is why they are attacking Syria, which is why they're even attacking Iran, because they are looking to expand far beyond Palestine. Palestine is not the end goal. The Greater Syria is. So when we see that they are on these offensives in all these different parts, we start to understand why the axis of resistance was even developed in the first place, and the importance of it, and then the importance of the resistance right now. So these encampments, while they are in support of Gaza, they need to also be, and I appreciate the pushback from a lot of these student encampments, where they are not allowing people to come in and try to tame the way they discuss Hamas or tame the way they discuss resistance. I appreciate that they are in the encampment saying, no, I am Hamas and you are Hamas, because they understand what this means. So, and of course that leads to backlash, but it is really, really, really important at all times to highlight the resistance, because that is what on the ground action is really what's sustaining what's happening in Gaza and people's ability to still fight back. It is their belief and their honor in that resistance. They are, when you hear them talk about it, they don't talk about it the way that people are insisting that we discuss it here, or not discuss it at all. And you have to really begin to question, like, what is the motivation in these encampments or around the protesting when they are not allowing people to talk about Hamas? Oh, don't bring that here, right? We really have to think about, why is that being stopped? Who is stopping it? And for what reasons, right? Because if we understand, and I think to the struggle that you and, well, I wouldn't even call it a struggle, but I think the conversation that you and Daruba had about the importance of highlighting Hamas, I think really signifies that, because we have to really, really think back and always prioritize the resistance. And because that is what is sustaining Palestine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And I mean, to be clear, we are pro Hamas here. we don't have a problem with armed struggle. We don't, because we understand that armed struggle is the legitimate, internationally recognized legal right, but it's also the moral right, whether there were any so-called Western laws written about it to legitimize armed struggle. It is just a natural, moral, human right for oppressed people to fight against their oppressors, for occupied people to fight against the entities that are occupying their land and oppressing them. So, you know, we do have to be clear, and I have to be careful about how I express my frustration at people who use Hamas as a distraction from talking about why armed struggle is happening in the first place, because that's how journalists use whenever they bring up the issue of Hamas. It's never, you know, to report that, look, Hamas has been the tip of the spear of the armed struggle, of the legitimate armed struggle for the Palestinian people for however long they have been. And armed struggle is legitimate for the Palestinian people because look at what Israel is doing to them, right? So because US and European journalists will not report on the truth in Palestine, we have to be very careful. And I did absolutely contradict myself that day. We have to be careful that we are lifting up Hamas as not only like a legitimate topic, but as the protectors and representatives of Palestine. And in that way, Jody Dean was right. If the Palestinians say that Hamas speaks for them, then Hamas speaks for everyone involved in liberation struggle against colonial oppressors. That is a conversation. Ricky, you are right. That is a conversation that needs to be had in these encampments. I think, though, that the students are making an unfortunate calculus. I think some of them that, you know, talking about Hamas in a favorable way will get us even more pressure and heat from the administration and from the police. That'll probably be worse. And I'm just guessing. This is, I have nothing to base this on other than I'm looking at what I'm seeing. And I think that's unfortunate because we understand that, you know, in times of revolution like this, in revolutionary times, like we can't be parsing language and being vague and ambiguous about whose side we are on and who our enemies are. That so I don't know how do we do that though, Ricky? How do we go into these spaces where I think a lot of these students have done a really good job in protecting their narrative and their spaces, but how do we go into these spaces that we have respect for and tell them, look, you got to stop hedging, you know, you got to stop pulling your punches on, you know, when you're talking about Hamas. Hamas is legitimate. What's the problem?
Well, we did. I mean, we really did. But I think also we didn't just go into these spaces, right? We were invited into these spaces. And I think that speaks to the relationships that were already established between us and the students and these student groups, that they would listen to us when we said it. Mm-hmm. And really, Jackie, we have seen, you know, I always try to be careful about the way I discuss certain things because I don't want it to come across sovereignistic, but I do want it to come across as a product of base building. We have seen these students go from ceasefire to smash Zionism as a product of always maintaining those relationships. They are no longer talking about ceasefire. They are talking about smashing Zionism. They are chanting it 7 times. And, you know, but they're, you know, so and that's where they're at. You know, they're even when they hear Rafiki speak, they are taken by that because he is very clear about his role and about their role. And then it's like they receive not marching orders, but it's a clear understanding. I remember when we were there and we were talking to them that day over the barricades because they had put up the barricades the night we left. Remember, we were there. Everybody, you know, when we left, they put those barricades up, and those barricades came up 2 days. And they called us and they said, could y'all come out here? The students are feeling a little defeated. Parents are calling, worried, you know, asking them to leave. And then we spoke with them. That night, the next morning, I wake up to Instagram videos of them.
They were
standing on top of the barricades. The barricades down. And they're waving the flag. So to say that it's not that they don't get it. I think there is
Mhm.
a level of fear. And a lot of them have never participated in anything like this, and there's a lot of pressure on them to do the right thing. Are we doing the right thing? Is this
Mhm.
the right move? Are we
Mhm.
making the right tactical decisions? Is this the right strategy? And every single day that they were in those encampments, these were the questions that they had to ask themselves, among themselves. And then you've seen how that built out over the course of days. I mean, they created a community behind
Mhm.
that had rules.
Yeah.
Favorite rules
Oh,
looking up.
rules?
They had
What?
no looking up on that board. I said, yes, because these are serious students.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, but no, I say that to say that it was a process of them learning in real time of how to do it, and there was mistakes made and there was adjustments made, but it was all in real time. And I think to your question of like, how do we get them to shift? You get them to shift by being there by the base building and having these
Mhm.
honest conversations. Like, what are y'all doing? What's the
Yep.
objective here? What are y'all
Mhm.
trying to do? How long
Mhm.
y'all think y'all about to do this for? What happens
Mhm.
after the encampment? And I
Mhm.
think these are the questions that they are asking themselves, and that's what's propelling them to take it a step further, to escalate it more. And I think
Mhm.
also we have to be mindful, because I see that happening, about we need to escalate, 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 but escalation has to be considered in the material conditions that these students are holding these encampments. What escalation looks like for Columbia is not going to look like for the FIT students that are in a building still. That
Mhm.
nobody, the Fashion Institute of Technology has an encampment in the building, right? So their escalation is not going to look like Columbia. It's not going to look like George Washington. It's not going to, and we have to be mindful because the policing is different in these areas.
Mhm.
But we told those students, you don't really, that's not the nature of DC police
Yep.
unless the feds called them. And that's
Right.
exactly what happened.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
were told they're not gonna mess with y'all.
Until.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
So
And
it's
that's
not the
exactly
same,
what they
yeah, it's
did.
not the same as the NYPD that's gonna run in there like that. No.
Right.
They
And
literally
trample
get
you.
a call from Congress. So we always have to consider the material conditions, and we have to keep dialectics, I think, at the forefront of how we even understand what's happening, because there's just a sort of mass. Even when we talk about the student groups, the SGP in the West is not, or in New York, it's not the SGP in the DMV, it's not the SGP in Cali. They function differently, the same way we would look at organizations, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh, PSL here is not PSL there. It's not, BAP here. We all have to deal with our material conditions and how these organizations function in those collective spaces and base build from that point of unity.
Right.
And then we start to see things shift and change, as
Mhm.
opposed to trying to slap everything or make everything like one kind of accord, because it's not.
Right.
Our
It's
conditions
like a
are
template.
right. There's
Right.
no
Yeah.
template.
Yeah, like people think that base building and building out an organization is like you take this template and you just they think it's like planning a church. Right? Is that you take this template and you replicate this template, because that's what they do when they plant churches. They find a template that works, a program that works, that draws people. Then they go to another city and they take that template and they do it again and they do it again and they do it again. And that's how you have 87 churches all belonging to one family that owns all the churches. And people think this is what base building and organizing is. It's you take this template and it works in one neighborhood and you go over to the next neighborhood and you take it and you go. That's not how it works. You have to assess each group of people that you are talking to differently, because they are in different material conditions than the last group of people you talked to. Like, we can't have the same conversation. Sorry about my hot flash. We can't have the same conversation about the GWU encampment that we have about the Howard students, because very different material conditions for those students. So I'm hesitant, and I see the difference there were differences in media coverage, but even I'm hesitant to kind of compare well, why couldn't the Howard students do blah blah blah? Well, because of different conditions, and the students at Howard assess their conditions differently than the students at GW did, because they are in different situations.
Mhm.
And there are some other issues, yes, about organizing and the lack of organizing, but I'm not all that convinced that the students at GW were doing any door to door, the door knocking on dorms. And I don't know that they were doing that either. I think that maybe they just had a community that was ready and more willing to support. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's a good example of why we don't do a template cookie cutter kind of approach to base building in different situations, because you cannot build the kind of thing at Howard that exists at GW, because those are different environments, those are different students, and they have different analyses and different needs and different levels of understanding.
Right.
So we have to approach them differently in every situation. And that's part of the excitement of, I think, of organizing, but it's also like the nervousness, because it's like, oh, how is this going to work out? You don't know. You just have to keep working at it until it does, or it doesn't.
I think what's also left out about the Howard thing is that Howard has a SJP, and DMV SJP collectivized and organized all these encampments. And I think Kamal mentioned this about Emory, but the point, they did decide to make GW the point of action, because we were speaking with Howard students that were at the GW encampment. I mean, we could maybe discuss having made those connections with other students at Howard, but it wasn't a small contingent of students, and they did have plans before the encampment got busted up to make that connection. And then also, I'm in Baltimore. I'm not in DC, so we travel to George Washington. But when Hopkins had their encampment, I could tell you it looked completely different. So much so that we were like, oh, what? Okay. All right. So where do we start? When we got there, because it was completely different. And it's only it's in Baltimore and DC. We're not talking about states away. We're talking about
it's 45 minutes away
of on a beltway. But also I raised that this speaks to, I think, a particular instance that we see happening in the DMV and Baltimore in general. There's a reason why it's DMV and Baltimore. And you kind of see that played out in the ways that these student encampments were organized, because there was the DMV SJP was in communication, but to what extent they were in communication with the students and SJP in Baltimore to organize these things,
right,
was a little different. So again, the material conditions should always be considered around how much you're actually able to do. And then when the encampments start, then you start to ask the questions, or you begin to push them a bit. Why aren't we talking about this? Why? Because those are things that I asked from jump. And then next thing I get a call, hey, you should come talk about Haiti. We would like you to talk about Haiti. We would like for you to come and talk about Nicaragua. Because I raised that. We should be making these connections. These are the same struggles. And they said, good, you're right. But we don't know anything about that. So if you would want to come and talk about that. And then when we went to do the petition for Nicaragua, and we spoke to at least 100 people in person, and everybody was like, oh yeah, just like with Iran, oh yeah, just like with this, so they were able to make those connections in real time. It is just that they have to be pushed, and we cannot just assume that these students know what they're talking about because there's TikTok and there's Twitter and all these things, because when you have these actual conversations with them, they really are still learning.
Yep. And the good thing is, the really great thing is, they're willing to learn, and they're willing to chew. They're really willing to chew and blow bubbles at the same time, walk and chew gum at the same time. They're doing these encampments. They're challenging their administrations. They're demanding divestment in some cases, or at least to find out, for the universities to be transparent about their investments, because students don't know, because they're not. But they're also realizing, hey, there's a lot we don't know. Maybe we can take this time to learn too. And they're doing that, y'all, as they were studying and getting ready for finals and graduation. Right. So, and they're out there, the students who did the liberated zone at Howard's campus, they were cooking their own food, and they just did it as an experiment to see if they could, because they wanted to do something. They did go to the GW encampment, but they wanted to do something on Howard campus. So they said, well, we'll just do this little liberated zone. Hadn't done anything at all before. And I thought it was a good effort, but even they were like, I don't think we know what we're doing. Right. So we get out there and we're looking around and we're like, there's nobody out here but these 6, 7 kids. What the and we talk to them and it's like, oh, you really don't know what you're doing. Oh, okay. So you need us to be here with you when you come back in the fall, if you intend to keep organizing, and I hope you do. And they were all like, yes, those of us who are not graduating will be back. We will continue. We will do these things. Because, me and Rafiki were like, you need to be knocking on doors in your dorm. You need to be handing out flyers. If you want 10 people to show up at, or to sign something or to show up at a meeting, you got to pass out 100 flyers. You got to talk to 100 people. You got to, you do all these things and you have to do them all the time. And they're just like, okay, we can do that. I think we can do that. It's like, cool. So if you think you can do that when you're going to come back in the fall and you are committed to doing that, then we're committed to being here with you as long as you want us to. So when you come back in the fall, if I don't hear from you, and I told this to a couple of the students, if I don't hear from you in the first 2 weeks, I'll be calling you. Because you have said that you want us to be here. And they're like, yes, Miss Jackie, we want you and Rafiki. I'm like, look, y'all gonna leave Rafiki alone. Rafiki is, you don't want more Rafiki right now. You take this Auntie Jackie before you get some more Rafiki, because you can't. I don't want that for you right now. Because y'all are not ready to face that man, because y'all ain't done what he told you to yet. I don't want you to face. I don't want that for you. So I'm like, yeah, we'll save Rafiki for a little bit later in the year. But yeah, I'll be here with you when you come back in the fall. We'll see what we can do. Mm-hmm. And that's that for us, for seasoned or experienced, or however you want to call us, organizers. That's our job. That is what we're supposed to be doing. And I don't see a whole heck of a lot of it, which lets me know we are doing the right thing, I think.
I don't know if either of you have a story.
Oh yeah, I do. I've been wanting to talk about this for 2 weeks. Oh, Lord have mercy. Why? How did an entire university administration not realize they were being punked by this man, especially since he had done it before? The Florida A&M University Foundation Board members speak out on a sketchy $237 million gift. So this man, and I'll tell you who the man is later on, he said he was donating $237 million to Florida A&M. They get all excited about it. See, they have the check and everything. And the man was a con artist. But the thing is, folks, he was a con artist who had conned another HBCU with the same, oh Lord, members of Florida A&M University's Foundation and Board of Trustees were blindsided. They couldn't have been when they learned of a historic $237 million donation that was announced at the school's commencement ceremony. We didn't get an official announcement, an email, or anything from the university until Sunday, over 24 hours after commencement. A board member for the foundation told what I'm reading days after the emergency meeting of the FAMU Foundation Thursday. The foundation is the steward of the university's endowments and is responsible for knowing all about the donation process. The university signed a non-disclosure agreement, which ensured that only a handful of FAMU's leadership knew about the donation before Isaac Batterson, Seventh Family Trust and Batterson Farms Corporation CEO Gregory Germani, that's the guy, made the announcement after his commencement speech. First of all, they had this man speaking at the graduation after he had pulled this with another HBC. Even though Germani told the FAMU graduates and their families that the money is in the bank, the purported 9-figure gift actually came in the form of, get this, shares of stock. in his companies. In other words, there is no tangible money in the bank at the moment. The donor donated 14 million shares of stock of intrinsic value worth at least $239 million. Well, I don't know if they're stock in his company or not, but it's stock, and will donate an additional $61 million over 10 years, read the gift agreement obtained by the Tallahassee Democrat. That's a newspaper. Though these numbers don't match what the university initially announced. The donation made national headlines as one of the biggest gifts ever made to a historically Black college or university, eclipsing the $100 million donation made to Spelman College earlier this year. During the emergency meeting, Vice President for University Advancement, Shanta Friday Stroud, mentioned that Jerami allegedly wanted to increase his donation after he learned of Spelman's historic gift. Oh, the donation has sparked much skepticism as online sleuths dug into the 30-year-old hemp farmer's background. Very little is known about Jerami's business, his past philanthropic efforts, and why his prior planned gifts to Coastal Carolina University in South Carolina, the University of Texas at Austin, and other universities. So it was more than one university that he tried this at. All of those other donation efforts failed. How do you fail to make a donation unless you just don't have the money? Former Birmingham, Alabama City Council member Kimberly Abbott, who was listed as CEO, co-CEO, and vice chair of Batterson Farms Corporation on the company's website, has known Jerami for years, according to the Tallahassee Democrat. However, she said that she's never worked for him and has no faith in the donation. So the newspaper reported that she worked for him for all these years, but she said, no, I ain't. Without disclosing any information, I can tell you that nothing he ever said made sense. It didn't add up, and I don't feel good about this gift that he's given to the university. Abbott told the outlet, if it works out, God bless him and God bless the university. So I'm going to stop right there. So this is I thought it was just the second time, but apparently this is like the fifth time this con artist has claimed to give this massive gift to an HBCU, and then it just went away. It just didn't happen. And it just, how do you fail to make a donation if you just don't have the money and you just don't give it? That's not the donation fail. That's you didn't have the money that you said you were going to give to these people. You didn't give it to them because you didn't have it. But then my question is for FAMU. I am wondering about these silly people in the administration at FAMU who apparently nobody knows how to do due diligence. I mean, you can't do just a Google search who this man is, who his companies are, what his track record. It's all right there on Google. How? But then if he makes this surprise announcement at the graduation, after his commencement speech, I guess but then members of the administration did know because they signed an NDA and they didn't tell the other members of the administration that he was going to do this. Some members of the administration knew. This is a mess. This is a mess. And I hate to say it, but it's FAMU's fault that they fell for it. It really is. Because if you are a con artist and you remember that kid doctor who didn't get a degree from nowhere, and he had all this patience, although nobody could confirm his medical qualifications. Like, if you knew that this kid had, first of all, he was a kid and he had no medical qualifications, and you knew that, but people are like, but he's such a good doctor and you went to him anyway. That's your fault. That is your fault. And he gave you some diagnosis that got your leg amputated and you followed the advice. That's your fault because you knew he wasn't qualified. But so this is FAMU's fault. I don't feel bad for them. I feel bad for the students because they have been subjected to the misleadership at their university again, and in a very public and embarrassing way. and that's unfortunate. But I mean, I hope this opens the eyes to the students and helps them to see that their administration is not transparent, don't care about them, aren't even concerned about just doing things in a proper way. Like, how do you I just, oh my God. How? I just don't understand how something this ridiculous happened.
Well,
That reminds me of the oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, because I was thinking about the Spelman donations and all of these things that's been happening. I think there's just an eagerness from these HBCUs to receive this money for these programs, essentially, that we never really know what becomes of it. I also remember the man, was it Robert Smith, that donated for Morehouse? He was supposed to pay the tuition of those students, and he announced that at the graduation, and none of that ever came to fruition. So I do think that there is a sort of eagerness around accepting this money from HBCUs. And I guess we could say that, HBCUs are also underfunded, even though lots of them have state contracts to get state money, and we just ignore that part. But in comparison to PWIs, they are underfunded. This money is always welcome, but then nobody really even talks about, like, to what extent. Why are we getting this money? Or even like when the State Department, right, last year or maybe the year before, when General Lloyd Austin went to Howard and gave all that money, and then lo and behold, earlier this year was the Global Fragilities Act conference that was sponsored by the African Studies Department. But so you see where all this money is going to, but just the eagerness to receive it unquestioned or petitioning it as a benefit to the students, I think does lead them to being scammed. And I think ultimately, whether or not they receive the money, the intentions for the money is a scam too, because it's not like they're like just giving the money for the benefit of the students because we care about Black students' education so much, and we care about, it's all, it's all BS. But I agree with you. I would say that it's the fault of the administrations primarily, that are not even in most instances Black, or most instances have these kind of ties with mega corporations or State Department where this makes sense to do. I feel bad for the students though.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the
Ever.
yeah, like this reminds me of the doctor. I don't know if you heard about this, but he was actually a lung specialist who was hired by a famous Texas hospital who specialized in heart transplants, though. So this guy was actually operating on people and connecting the wrong heart valves. And the board was like, oh, but he had a great track record with lungs. Like this is the board of the hospital. Like people were literally dying because of his malpractice. And people were coming to that hospital for heart procedures specifically, and he was allowed to operate for quite a few years. ProPublica did like a long piece on this guy, this doctor, a few years ago. Yeah, go check it out.
Gosh.
So I'm still thinking about the other story that you were talking about, and I know we have to go to a break, but I'll just add that two things. I feel like it's really important what you were saying about how you organize. And I think that's what we tend to talk about a lot here, especially on Wednesdays. Things like principles of unity and rules and, understanding who you're organizing with and building those relationships is what allowed those students to be able to feel, accessible, comfortable, safe to say, hey, like Ricky, Erica, Jackie, all you people, like, can you come back? But also you were able to say, look, like here are all the things that you can do while we aren't there, because you do have the power to do something. It's not just us. And I had one other thing, but I forgot what I was going to say, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, the way Rafiki delivered that particular news was, y'all ain't done nothing. Y'all ain't done nothing.
Well,
y'all ain't done nothing. What doors have you knocked at? And I'm serious. He's like, what doors have y'all knocked on? on. Well, y'all sitting up in your dorm. Y'all ain't knocked on your neighbor's door to your left, to your right. Y'all ain't done nothing. I'm like, oh, come on, Rafiki, get a baby some break. Give him a break. Give him a baby some break. But when he left, they were like, Miss Jackie, is Mr. Rafiki mad at us? No, he's not mad at you. Rafiki is concerned.
Oh, I remember now.
Yeah. What?
You talking made me remember that. Armed struggle. The only reason why we're able to do other nonviolent direct actions is because of armed struggle. So we need to support the people that are the tip of the spear. That includes political prisoners, and so that's the thing that I'll say.
Yes. Points. Break.
just.
Yeah. What's good? Let me let y'all know what this is. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Air Doctor. Please make sure y'all hit that like button, that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, also go to patreon.com and become a member over there and get footage that's rare. This is Black Power Media. This is not Black Power Media Reloaded. Let's get that clear. For all y'all out there that got an email, apologize about that, but this is where you want to be, so let's get that clear. With that said, let me talk about somebody that needs to be talked about. Yes, let me talk about no other than the sister that goes by the name of Mary D. All right, let me tell you about Mary D. Mary D is, or also known as Mary Dudley. She was one of the first African-American disc jockeys, widely considered in the United States to be one of the first. Now, she came out of Pennsylvania. She studied at Howard University for 2 years, and then she wound up going to SI Man School of Radio in Pittsburgh. And in 1948 is when she first got on radio, on air on WHOD radio. She gained national attention, and then she wound up getting a storefront and it was called Studio D. You know, like how Samuel Jackson had his storefront radio in a Spike Lee movie. So, boom. So then she wound up doing that, and she moved her show Moving Around with Mary D to Baltimore and broadcast from a station, WSID, 1956 to 1958. In 1958, she moved to Philadelphia and hosted Songs of Faith on What? That was another radio station until her death in 1964. She's considered a pioneer developing a radio format that combines coverage of community affairs with music and news. She was one of the first 2 black women admitted into the Association of American Women in the Radio and Television, and was successful in campaigning for the organization of forego meetings in segregated facilities. During that lifetime, she received numerous awards for her civic work, and she was honored after her death with the Thomas J. McWilliams Lifetime Achievement Award from the Media Association of Pittsburgh. Now, let me tell you real quick about her other than that. Now, she was common for entertaining figures, and she lent her time to charitable causes, as in choosing to work with teens. She raised money for schools. She even mentored musicians like George Benson to help get his music career started. So every month she gave away records to community centers, youth homes, veteran centers, totaling 200 discs per month, 200 records a month. And she raised money for community improvement projects, receiving many awards and honors in civic groups. She was active in the Alpha Gamma Chi. She had a thing. She did a thing. She worked with NAACP. She did a lot. So I had to just shout out this sister, especially talking about being in radio, as you know, and being behind this microphone. It ain't easy. And there's so many things you can do with the microphone if it's done right. So big up to this sister, Mary D. All right, let's get back to the Remix Morning crew. You know how we do. All right.
I don't have no.
Hey, we're back.
Hey.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah. Having negotiations with Mr. Man here on the snacks.
Oh.
No, he I leave the door open, the back door open, because I have a fenced in backyard and everything. So I know that when I get up to do this, he wants to go, he has to go out, and it's raining. So, and then I have to do this in the morning. So no walk. And he's like, look, I'm peeing on the floor. I'm peeing somewhere. His thing is like, listen, I am going to go to the bathroom somewhere. So you got to figure something out. So now I have to leave the basement door open so he can get outside and go through. But I have the bug screen, the little thing that you install, And for 2 days, he just looked at the bug screen like, how am I supposed to go through that? And I'm just like, you're gonna have to figure this one out. I don't know what to tell
I
you.
love that.
And I just kept pushing him forward. And then when his nose hit it and he realized it wasn't a door, then he was like, oh, this is a soft thing. So then it was pushing it with his paw. And it's like, yeah, I don't, that's freaking me out. I need to go for a walk.
Yeah, my cat, when we got him, we got him in Thailand. He climbed up the entire screen. Like he was, 2 pounds, and so he got to the top of it pretty quickly. But let me do my best Kim impression. So, welcome, remixers. Thank you for joining us. It's 9:18 on May 15th.
Mhm.
And there may be 2 Black Power meetings that you see, but we are going into a transition. So if you could cancel that YouTube subscription, like, share, subscribe, and head over to Patreon, and stick with us because we got a new name, a new logo to be announced.
Mhm. All of
Mhm.
that to be announced. And where is that comment from? Oh shoot. I hate it when I see something and I forget to here it is. Because the petty in the chat cannot be matched. It is unmatched.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Russell Maroon Schultz says, Sisters Wednesday. How do we make every day Wednesday? No.
Shout out to Russ.
Indeed. I'm being disruptive. And I said, I'm hearing this in his voice.
I know he's a mess.
I'm being disruptive, and I said what I said. Now run tell your boss. Comply with my demand.
No more.
Sometimes we call him Charlie,
Comply with my demands for start a VPN scan, then going over to VPN. And then he followed up with, and also, can we get a little more Lucretia?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, we can. Yes, we can. I agree with you, Russ. Good to see you, fam. You're hilarious.
Thank you.
That's coming near you. Look out for that.
Mm-hmm.
You coming in a few cities.
Yes, indeed. DC's doing Curve Fest this year. Very
Speaking
excited.
of that, I do want to share this really quickly. So shout out to BAP today and others because today is Nakba Day in the diaspora where Palestinians they commemorate the horror of their displacement. And Nakba means, tragedy. And so I want to share this if I can. BAP, and along with a coalition of other organizations, if you are in the White Plains area of New York, you should try to get out to this. Can you see? There you go. Today at 4. So head out there, learn and enjoy and meet some BAT members and support. Do what you can.
This is dope.
Yeah.
It's really dope.
I mean, y'all taking back to Westchester, so I'm excited. Look at
I know. I'm like, wait a minute. Does that say Westchester?
It does.
Like, yo, how? I'm like, good grief. We some bad Africans. Damn.
Right.
All up in Westchester.
So shout out to them.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. I mean, there's so much. Like May is gonna be crazy. June is gonna I don't know how we're gonna get through the next few months in BAP in the mid-Atlantic.
Oh
All
yeah,
right.
and also sorry, Jackie. I
No,
saw
no, no, go
someone's
ahead.
comment. They were saying, yeah, Israel also tries to commemorate its Independence Day. Independence from what? I don't know. So on the same day as Nakba Day to coincide with that. And you can check out the footage on social media of Palestinians trying to walk back to their old villages with flags and at the same time counter protesters with Israeli flags being like, no, today is um, Israeli Independence Day. And I have a similar feeling to when Thanksgiving, quote unquote, or 4th of July rolls around. It feels very much like a a death anniversary of some kind for
Mhm.
me, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but see how easy it is to make all of these connections to what we know and to what Palestinians are enduring and have been enduring. I mean, so it's just really weird that I'm still like running into people who are like, I mean, but why is it that serious? This ain't our fight. This ain't, this don't have nothing to do with me. And I'm like, okay, the next time you get stopped by a pig in DC and they decide to drag you out that car and put their knee on their neck, maybe before you pass out, ask yourself who trained them to do that. It's the idea. That's why I'm like,
Can I say though, that response or just that reaction to like the what does that have to do with me, or that doesn't really gonna affect me, that supersedes what's happening in Palestine. Like I think I mentioned that before
mhm,
when we went to Coppin to talk to the students about Cop City, and the way
mhm.
the kind of school that Coppin is anyway is sort of like a police academy, junior.
Jesus.
So it's really like so they already have a particular mindset. But one of the students was basically like, "Y'all wasting y'all time because it's gonna happen anyway. So I don't even understand why y'all out here." And then so in talking to him, he was like, "Well, I don't. I'm a law-abiding citizen."
Yeah.
But so what is this? I mean, you can say all that, but I do what I'm supposed to do, so it doesn't really have shit to do with me. And I feel like that's the general ignorance
Mhm,
in terms of like how people are even understanding the mechanisms of all of this. There was a question in the chat about are we going on those encampments and talking about how like these tech companies also with the Congo, or are they asking or naming the Congo? But then again, same struggles. It's not that Tesla's doing this here and not do. Elon Musk was just in in Gaza, and he was just in Israel, right?
right.
So
Right.
not like these things are not connected in any kind of way. He's trying to make arrangements to do tech deals with Israel for surveillance and things like that, the same way that he has arrangements going on in Congo. And then to the point when we went to AIA, we spoke to them months ago about what University of Maryland, Baltimore County was doing in terms of having these research, because the school itself is a research school, and it's a research school for these sort of military developments.
Mhm.
So whether or not it's going to Palestine or Africa, the point of a divestment is that there's an understanding that these corporations are doing these things.
Mhm.
So we can't
Mhm.
just act as if the divestment is only going to have an effect on Palestine because Palestine is the only one being named. It's the same with
Exactly.
Zionism. When we say smash Zionism, we're demanding and we're calling for the end of Zionism, not because it's only going to affect Palestinians.
Right.
Zionism has a footprint in Haiti, has a footprint on the continent. So if it falls in Palestine, it falls everywhere because that's where the strength is. The same way we say
Mhm.
Zionism will die in Africa. If it falls in Africa, it's falling everywhere. So it's
Mhm.
understanding those kind of things when we talk about same struggles. But I think it's easier to say that, but then we also have to actually engage people about what these same struggles are. And you are going to run into people who just really don't care. And
Yeah.
their defense mechanism to not caring or not wanting to be involved is to say, well, this has nothing to do with me. But it all
Exactly.
has everything to do with us. We
Mhm.
live in the world.
And people who continually, like, oh, we don't need to be at the forefront of everybody else's struggle. These are people who don't understand that this is everyone's struggle. This is everyone's struggle. And Palestinians understand this, but here's the wild thing. Here's the thing that I keep saying, like, I don't understand and I don't get it. I do. and I'm not like being facetious when I say that. I'm trying to get to give people the benefit of the doubt that maybe there's something I'm missing. And I'm trying, maybe I'm being misinformed about something, but I don't understand how people who claim to be Pan-Africanists or pro-African or whatever they want to describe themselves, Black nationalists, whatever, how do you have this perspective on not supporting allegedly this other people's struggle when obviously you don't understand that this is everyone's struggle and it's connected to everyone? But then also when you're completely ignoring the history of the development of Pan-Africanism that emanated from the continent and from Black revolutionaries in this country. And what did they all say about Palestine?
What Kwame Ture say about it?
So I don't understand these people today who's supposed to be pro-Black this and Pan-African that, and you talking about we don't need to be involved in anybody else's struggle. That's not what our ancestors said. So when did you become more Pan-African and more revolutionary than all of them? Not just one, all of them. I'm confused. What am I missing? What am I missing here? Because really what it looks like is that people just don't want to do shit. and they just feel like when other people are standing up and making these connections to all of these struggles, but people's response is still, well, that's not our shit. Okay, then get out of my way. Fine, go somewhere and not do anything about a genocide going on. Go over there and do what you got to do. Stay away from me. I don't know what else we're supposed to do with folks like that. After we've tried to struggle with them, and they're still on that. Well, this don't have nothing to do with us. That's just the Palestinians. And anyway, the Arabs enslaved the Africans first. Man, get away from me.
Yeah, I mean, it's ignorance. It's ignorance. Because again, Zionism is a political structure. It's the same way that colonialism, and so to say that before whatever happened before the colonization of Palestine, we've been fighting colonialism, which is why we would still be fighting Zionism, because we have always fought against colonialism. Always. We never just sat and idly had it, let it play out. And from the inception, SNCC understood that clearly what the Zionism was. From the inception of the AAPIP, I mean, they have had that Hood Communist has reposted it, but they have had that pamphlet on Smash Zionism for 3-4 decades now. Mm-hmm. It has existed. The whole call for Smash Zionism comes from Africans.
Yes.
It's an African call.
Right. And
I'll just say that
it comes out of their historic fight against colonialism, right?
Right.
Because who better to recognize colonialism than people who fought it and fucking won, and they're looking over at Israel, especially the South Africans, not the government. They're not but the people. They're looking at Palestine, they're looking at Israel and like, do you not see that they're doing the exact same thing that the Dutch did here? Only it's actually worse there. So it's just I don't understand people who have I don't understand people who don't want to do something having a problem with people who do. If you don't want to do it, then go away and not do it and leave the rest of us who want to do something alone. I don't understand why people will waste their time arguing with people who are doing something that they don't want to do, that just not do what you don't want to do and go about your damn business. Lucretia, save me. Save us.
Well, let's check in with what Kwame Ture had to say about this and Zionism in 1995. Could you roll that?
Zionism is a political philosophy which has brought about the state of Israel, the so-called state of Israel. This political philosophy has nothing to do with religion. On the contrary, it seeks to confuse others and let them think that Zionism and Judaism is one and the same. I am a conscious African. I know properly my history. I know that Africa gave Judaism to the world. I know that the first Jews in the world were Africans. Not only do I know this, but I inform everyone who has doubts about it to read a book by Sigmund Freud entitled Moses and Monotheism as a beginning. Consequently, I know that Judaism and Zionism are not the same. Zionism had its first organizational expressions in 1897 in Basel, Switzerland, in Europe. Here was a man by the name of Theodor Herzl, H-E-R-Z-L. He was the founder of Zionism. He said that he was going to find the state that God promised the Jews. Listen to this very carefully. This man, Herzl, was an atheist. He believed that there was no God. He said God did not exist. Now, how is it that a man who believes that God does not exist is going to find a state that God promised to his chosen people? I'm telling you, this man is Satan in disguise. Zionism is a satanic movement. It is devil. It is imperialism. It is racist. It has gone and taken the lands of the Palestinian people and through terrorism has driven them out. And through terrorism, it maintains its power. And the United States of America, with over 6 million homeless, sends to Israel billions and billions and billions of dollars everywhere to bomb Palestinian people while homeless people are here and unemployed are here. Zionism is going to raise this war and make the people in America become clear to what it is and become anti-Zionist and stop the aid to Israel and use the money to take care of the homeless in this country.
Argue with Kwame Ture, but don't come in here arguing with us. That's I don't what you either gonna do you either believe what the man said, you either believe what Ethel Minor said, you either believe what so many other Malcolm X. Even Dr. King, who people claimed was pro-Israel, even Dr. King, do you know he was invited to Israel at least 6 times? And every time he was invited, Israel did something horrible to the Palestinian people. And every single time, Dr. King looked at that news and said, I cannot, while this is going on. So Dr. King never went to Israel. And toward the end of his life, he began to say, there is something not right in Israel where different groups of people live under different laws and they're occupied. They're living under a military occupation. This is not something that I think I can support. So I don't understand what people who claim to be pro-Black, whatever it is you think that means, and we have Black ancestors who were the literal forerunners of this revolution, who not only were clear on the connections between white supremacy, racism, Zionism, and colonialism and imperialism. Kwame Ture just explained it all right there in less than 5 minutes. Why this matters to us. Because it's the same thing that formed this country. It's the same thing that was done in Zimbabwe, same thing that was done in Hawaii, same thing that was done in Cuba, same thing that was in anywhere Europeans came and stole land and slaughtered people to steal their land and then pushed the survivors onto these desolate reservations and then put them under military occupation. What people around the world, what oppressed people have not endured that? That's why this is all of our struggle. And I don't get how people don't get that.
I think it's because it's the prevailing ideology, right? Like we've been living under imperialism in this way, especially with the United States, the UK, Australia, New Zealand for 500 years now? Like we probably need, I don't know how long in order to make sure it all falls. But as we see, the United States, lurching painfully, still pretty dramatically toward its end. I mean, once I think American citizens will see, especially once the dollar is dropped as the reserve currency and it's the yuan in the future, that quickly life will change very rapidly in America. And the same thing that happened with Latin America in the 70s with the devaluing of their currency and the rapid inflation. And we have rapid inflation currently right now in the US. But I mean, currently, I think Venezuela, right, is now seeing 300% levels of inflation because of Milei's devaluing. And so these things have real consequences. And we've seen that during the pandemic. But I think Americans who are alive now, perhaps have not seen the destruction that comes with the neoliberal gutting of your economic policies in your country. Something like depression level, something beyond that. And that takes some wrapping your mind around, I think. So
Yeah, I think it's also I think one of the things that was noted here when Kami Toure was talking about Zionism as a product of racism and imperialism is just the emphasis that we try to make it back about domestic and global imperialism being counterparts. When Jackie notes that when you're pulled over by a police officer, or you're brutally attacked by a police officer, and in some instances when we are killed by police, that training comes from the Deadly Exchange Program with the IOF, where they train, they exchange tactics and surveillance and all of those things. The knee on the neck for George Floyd, that is an Israeli tactical training. We've seen that done to Palestinian kids, children. So yeah, I think it's really important to really highlight the ways that those things work. Even when we look at Cop City, right? The expansion of Cop City and especially the ones that are building out in Atlanta and Baltimore that are these multi-million-dollar projects with the intent to train upon surveillance and all those things. These are things that the U.S. has learned or exchanged tactics with Israel primarily. And even to the point I made earlier about the material conditions of these encampments, we've seen the NYPD go that hard. But then again, why are we not talking about, one, the Columbia University professor that works for the NYPD, that also works in Tel Aviv, and that the NYPD has a station in Tel Aviv? Why is that not questioned? And what part of international law is a police is the police of one country allowed to be stationed in another? I mean, isn't that what we're talking about right now in the high courts that Kenya is doing with Haiti, right? It's unconstitutional, it's illegal. And yet, in some instances, we're just allowing these things to happen. Because so I do think that those are points that really need to be highlighted. And there is a story that I do want to raise that I sent about what Biden just recently did, because Kwame Ture speaks about why we will see people, or more and more people, take grasp for anti-Zionism, because they're looking at their exact material conditions. When we see homelessness on the street and all these billions of dollars keep getting sent to Israel, that is going to make a shift and change. And I think we could see that as a spark for what happened in 2020 as well. Mm-hmm. Yes, George Floyd happened. Yes, Breonna Taylor happened. But then also we were stuck in the home with nothing.
Right. That's
people
right.
are watching their conditions deteriorate in real time. Mm-hmm. People were living 6 people to a 2-bedroom household and were stuck there every day thinking, oh, this wasn't the one, Jared. The next one. But we could talk about this one, I guess. Mm-hmm. But people were stuck there every day in terms of, and then that was the spark. Once they got outside, it was like, not only do we have nothing, but they're killing us too.
Right.
So we do have to really consider, how are people coming to these conclusions. But before I talk about that, hold on. I don't know if you want to add to that, because I do want to send Jared the right link before we talk about this one.
I mean, yeah, I do. Sometimes I do tend to forget that, 2020 happened in the midst of the COVID pandemic. And I don't know how I forgot that, because I was in here making safety kits, hundreds of them to take out to people. Like, oh my God, the kids can't get COVID out here. That was an interesting time for me and Abdus, because we're just like, both of us are immunocompromised. I don't think we should be out here, but man, ain't no way we can't be out here. So we are in here making little kits with some masks, some sanitizer, milk of magnesia for the eyes, and all kinds of fun stuff, bandages and snacks, and we had a great time. But it was it was interesting, because being out. And I've been in all kinds of protests in DC, and you usually see, cross section of people, but this was a very different thing, because it was obvious that there were a lot more well-to-do people who were out, and it's like, why are you mad? Right? And then you hear from people that their material conditions changed, and that was never something that they experienced. And I remember talking to one lady, and she was just like, now I see why Black people have been mad. She literally said to me, now I see why Black people have been mad the time. I mean, because if our government is not going to provide for us in the middle of a pandemic, and then the government hasn't been doing shit for y'all all this time, I get you on that. I'm like, wow, it only took a fucking global pandemic for you to get it. That's okay, but thank you for, it takes what it takes, I guess. But it's, I mean, yeah, I think people were shocked by obviously the public execution of George Floyd. But I think you're right, Ricky, the fact that people realized just how much this government didn't care about them either in the pandemic. That's what drove people out into the streets like, oh, shoot, the Negroes were right all this time.
The Negroes were right.
Oh,
Blacks.
excuse me.
So I seen this headline. I think I heard about it yesterday, but I was traveling, so I didn't really get to look into it. And then I did see the headline on the Cradle, which is one of my favorite publications, if you have not noticed. But U.S. readies $1 billion in bombs for Israel days after pausing, in quotes, arms transfer. So I have a few questions. Didn't they just send Israel some money in that package deal with Ukraine and Taiwan? Wasn't that like $36 billion already? Didn't they just agree to pause when they did they abstained from that vote, but they also agreed, they abstained for the ceasefire, but agreed to pause sending any money? And then where is this $1 billion coming from? Where are these billions coming from? How, because are they just printing this money out? Because we don't have it. Where is this money coming from?
That's the high-speed rail, Ricky.
Yes.
From Westchester to New York.
Yeah. And the one from Baltimore to DC to New York. Yeah. It's that. It's the which line was supposed to be built in the metro that didn't get built? Silver Line's been built, Purple Line's been. Well, I guess they finally got them all. Okay. But housing, homeless people still living in tents all over the place. So that's our housing money. Healthcare still unaffordable, so that's our healthcare money.
People who can give birth don't need those. Don't need that abortion
don't
care.
need
Don't
that.
need that.
Nope. That's how. Some states have outlawed free lunch. So yes. And why do I want to say it was Texas? Because it just sounds like a Texas thing.
Yeah.
Texas or Florida thing.
Child labor too.
Huh?
We got child labor.
Right. We've got child labor. Children can now work in warehouses, bars, and processing plants, meat processing plants. So yeah, we have a whole new a revived labor force, children now. Yeah, so all of the money that would have gone to protecting and provided for the people that they've never done, yeah, they've just kind of amassed that in a back room somewhere, and they're just giving it to Israel. Yeah. That's what it is.
If we can read the story, if you want to pull it back up, though. Someone with better eyes, because I'd be over here squinting in them tiny letters on the screen, because nobody gives me control of any buttons. None of them. I'm gonna make that an agenda point for the next one.
No, that's not.
Control of the buttons.
That has to end.
Yeah, if one of you could read it.
Okay, you got it.
Start? Yeah. The government of U.S. President Joe Biden has informed Congress that it is planning a $1 billion weapons transfer to Israel, congressional sources said. Congress will approve the transfer, which was initially reported by the Wall Street Journal. This is the first arms shipment to be announced by Washington since it paused a shipment of weapons to Israel over concern with its plans in Gaza's southern city of Rafah. This includes $700 million in tank ammunition, $500 in tactical vehicles. Wonder why they need those, and $60 million in mortar rounds. It remains unclear when it will be sent, though. It will be sent. I mean, yeah. Let's see. Republican lawmakers have been planning to advance this bill to mandate a prompt delivery of these offensive weapons to Israel. Would you like me to continue?
No, well, I think it's interesting that because I think the way that MSNBC has been slating these things is that the Republicans are adamantly against sending any more aid to Ukraine and to Israel. Um, and so that's the pushback that they're fighting the Republicans to get aid to Israel, and that's really the narrative that they've been pushing. So I'm really interested to see that they're saying, "Oh no, we fully support Israel."
Right. The Republicans are like,
We're
what?
mistaken.
Don't
We
get it
No,
twisted.
send the money to Ukraine. We don't.
no,
give a shit
we hate Palestinians.
about Israel. Yeah, that's our friends there.
Right. No, we want all the money. As a matter of fact, here, they're taking out their wallets and here, send this to them just until we get. But I find it interesting that Biden's administration told Congress like
Right.
that, well, no, we're not asking you to approve nothing. This is what we are doing.
Mhm.
And what does Congress have? What who gonna check them?
Right.
Apparently not Congress.
Lucretia, I don't know if you want to read Corinne Jean-Pierre's response because that's always amusing.
Oh, yeah. I love hearing her responses. We strongly oppose attempts to constrain the president's ability to deploy the U.S. Security assistance consistent with U.S. foreign policy and national security objectives. She added that Washington plans to send every last cent of the supplemental package signed into legislation by Biden last month. In March, Congress passed a $95 billion, so let's just recap, $95 billion package of foreign aid that includes military assistance to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan so that they can start a war in South China Sea.
Yeah, so I was significant. I said 36, but I think that's part of that 95 billion. 36 of it is going to Israel. But yeah, Jean-Pierre, I don't know. She is a character.
We strongly oppose it.
Yeah, you know there was a neck. You know the curls were bouncing.
Constrain the president's ability to deploy U.S. assistance.
Oh
wait, no, because she always does this. We strongly.
She's struggling. Like,
constrain the president's ability to deploy U.S. security assistance consistent with U.S. policy, foreign policy, and national security objectives.
I think Jake Sullivan is also drooping. I mean, he just walks off. He's like straight because they're like, so are you sure it's not a genocide? He's like, look, I don't know. And then he kind of just walks off. He's like, I don't think so. And he just leaves. So.
And I'm sorry, just the fact that people are hemming and hawing over whether they like the fact that the word genocide is used. Because I literally, where was I? I would think I was speaking somewhere, and I was speaking at Land Back Day at DuPont Circle, and I come off the mic and I'm talking to folks, and some lady comes up to me and she's, I'm very pro-Palestine, and I want them to be free, but I really don't think it's helpful to be very aggressive toward the United States and the funding. And I'm like, lady, you think that Palestinians are fighting in equal force? They are fighting these people with rocks and homemade missiles, while the U.S. is giving Israel, while they have been committing a genocide and stealing an entire fucking country, every weapon they could possibly want. So you don't want to offend people, and I'm not so sure we should call it a genocide. What would you call the mass murder of men, women, and children over a specific period of time? What would you call it? And I'm out on in DuPont Circle asking this lady, what would you call it if you wouldn't call it a genocide? Why and why does the word genocide bother you so much that you can't use it when it is being committed? What is the problem here? And she just stammering. But I just think people are turned off by I don't give a damn. I would hope that people are so turned off by dead bodies of women and children that they would call for the end of a genocide. And I was just like, you know what? If you are upset that people are using the word genocide, you're more upset at the word genocide being used than the people being killed by the genocide, then the problem is you. The problem is you. She was mad, but I was like, I said what I said and turned around and went home.
I also wonder in terms of like watching the ICJ case. I know there was reports that I guess Egypt joined with South Africa, but we know last week or the week before, Jackie, we learned that Nicaragua had joined the ICJ case to support South Africa. So I'm wondering, to what extent is the fixation, and maybe not a fixation, maybe that's not the word because it is a genocide, but I'm wondering in terms of like international law, Israel has continuously violated international law aside from the genocide, right? Starving the people out, one, attacking civilians. So, I mean, the genocide is just another layer. There's already all of these violations of international law. So I'm just struggling around like what pushes people to the edge, like what makes people be, oh, okay, all right, so this is wrong. Like, do we need to call it a genocide? Do we need to keep showing, So I'm always struggling with that in terms of like, because my mom has a clear, like, because she watches it or she hears me talk, but then she also watches, MSNBC, and they have a completely different narrative around all these things. So I'm always wondering, like, how do those conflicting narratives, how do you process that? Hearing me say certain things, hearing my, online, because she also thinks she's a member because she be in the meeting business. She is secretly overhearing, always passing.
Well, I think we should have the same rules for moms and dads who are in the periphery of their children's, even if they're adult children's, organizing as we have for the partners of our members, because partners in the Mid-Atlantic, they are unofficial members of the Mid-Atlantic, so they can come to the parties and stuff. They can come and help us, flyer and stuff. So I think we should do moms and dads is the same way. We just adopt the whole family into the
But I'm always wondering, what is that like when you watch, like, even to the point of TikTok, right? When people want to say that TikTok is like has opened people's eyes in certain ways, how are people processing the different information? Because you have a mainstream media narrative, and then you have these things that you're seeing with your own eyes.
Right.
See it with your own eyes, and then you're told, but no, don't believe what you're seeing with your own eyes. And I'm always wondering, so where is that? Okay, so now I understand clearly. This is the side we need to be on. This is, I think there's still some teetering, and that's where the question around, I don't know if we should call it a genocide, or I don't know. I think the questioning of what people are seeing for themselves starts to happen outward. So then that's the expression that we're seeing around, should we be supporting Hamas? Should we be calling it genocide? Because they're also being told different things. And I'm wondering, how are people processing the propaganda? I'm also wondering my own reasons as an organizer, like what is it that I need to be doing to help that process along? Because you can tell people a lot of things. We talk a lot. We do a lot of these teach-ins all the time. But then, afterwards, what is the process for them? How are they taking this in? And especially if it's brand new information.
That's the work that I feel really interested in, that like internal decolonization of ideas. And I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, because I think the minute you sit down and think, okay, 16,000 children have been unalived or something, right? Like just thinking it, if you sit and actually let that sink in, it's horrifying. It's almost destabilizing. You almost can't go on if you actually contemplate how many people are being killed. I mean, we didn't even speak in depth about the Congo or Yemen or Sudan, and you think about your people dying daily. And that is a useful tactic to get people to not organize, because it neutralizes you with grief. And so I think that's why it's important to have spaces to be able to, as we were saying earlier, process that, talk about it. But also, the last thing I'll say is that piece of armed struggle. I think that's what really scares people, because they see Hamas, they see the Qassam brigades, if they even know those names, but they do see
Yeah.
people
Mhm.
fighting back violently. And it's like, wait a minute, since I've realized that a government, the definition of a government is the entity that has the monopoly on violence. That's what it is. Because we as people, as workers, are not allowed to object. We've seen that. We've seen that on the campus, right? We see that in our daily lives when Black activists, African activists, active organizers get targeted with the most brutal repression possible for saying, the most basic thing, like, can I vote? It's like, no. Like, so you can't even breathe. You can't even live. You can't even be in your house. You can't even be walking down the street, So yeah, I think that violence piece, and that's by design, because then that is the only thing, as we said earlier, that is really driving the struggle. It's that piece at the forefront.
And it really is. It does make people nervous. I think, and those are questions that pop up in my own organization, right? In terms of or what people feel that their expectations are, or what they're expected to do. So when you're advising people to join into this struggle and have a clear mind, and they see that, or they start to take it as PE and see, oh, wait a minute, revolution cannot happen without armed struggle. So where does that leave me?
Right.
And again, I think when we look at these things, everybody is not on the front line. I think, Sharice calls it, team fisticuffs. Everybody is not on team fisticuffs. Okay. You have to assign team fisticuffs, right? People who are about it.
Yep.
And then there are people who probably should just be, regulated to
in the background. Just,
regulated to another task. Maybe maybe you are the admin. Maybe you are the shop kid. Maybe you are the
water boy, right? Like
PE. Maybe you are the person who, gets the ammunition. You don't necessarily
that's
shooting it up. But essentially, it's to Martha's point, to each their own ability. So what you're capable of doing. But I don't necessarily think, and I think that is what makes people nervous, because at the end of the day, the actual change, the dreaming of new worlds has to be constructed, and it can only be constructed at the demise of this one. It cannot be constructed alongside this one.
Right.
Yeah, and it cannot come to a demise peacefully. When we say peace is not the absence of struggle, like, we understand clearly what that means in Pathfinds for Peace. It's not we're not a pacifist group. But then also, we're not, adventurous either. We're not salvationist either. We're not telling everybody to have your gun and just good luck.
We're not doing armed and loaded drills on 16th Street.
No, not yet. But I will say that I do see that in a lot of people, in terms of how they understand armed struggle, how they understand a revolution, in fact, as a continuous, ongoing thing. It's not just something that happens in one point of time and then that's the end and everybody becomes free. No, you have to build that, and that only can get built at the demise or the end of another one. So I'm always interested in how people are making attempts to build socialism here, in this existing settler colony, using socialist states as models, ignoring that they had that armed struggle.
Right. Well, then that raises the question for me, Ricky, are some of these people who claim that they are in this struggle, are they really wanting to build socialism? Because that's the thing, because they're like, yeah, we're in the struggle for what? That's my question. What are you struggling toward? If you are not struggling toward the demise of this capitalist imperialist system, and that includes the Zionist system, because it's the same thing, then if you're not struggling to build socialism in its place, then what you doing? You trying to build a kindler, gentler capitalism? Is that what you're trying to reform this system so that we can have a little more of the crumbs? Because that's what I suspect a lot of folks are doing when they express, like, the first meeting you come to in the organization, the first question you ask, what's y'all's opinion on armed struggle? I don't know. What's your opinion on armed struggle? Because we won't talk about that. Why'd you come in here with that?
Right.
We're not talking about that. So now I'm suspicious.
Well,
So
let me do my Kim
I just,
impression.
yeah,
Yes, Jackie, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I just really think a lot of people don't know what they are struggling toward. They know that this system sucks. They don't want it anymore, but they're afraid to go full on socialist because they're still convinced by that this system is right in what they say about socialism. Socialism doesn't work. But these people also don't travel. So they don't know. I'm telling you, it's life-changing when you go to a revolutionary country, when you go to a country that's won its revolution and has implemented socialism, and things become extremely clear about revolution never ending. Because if people are nervous about armed struggle, and that's cool, okay, but please understand that when the revolution is won, then everybody has to defend the revolution, because the country will still be attacked, because the imperialist and capitalist forces, they're not all going to be gone. They're not going to disappear. We're still going to have enemies, and they're still going to hate us. So we're going to have to defend the revolution, just like Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela are doing. Just like they're doing in the Sahel now with these military transitional leaders. How many times has Traore been attempted? How many times has he been attempted to be assassinated? Just since so come on, y'all. Yes, there's a place for everybody in the revolution. Yes, there is. But please understand, the stakes are real. This is not a game. This is not. At some point, one day, yes, there's going to be some type of armed struggle, and you need to decide where you're going to be when that happens. You can be in support. You don't have to be team fisticuffs. I probably will be if I'm still around. But we've all got to fight in this. It just depends on which side you're on and what you're fighting for.
Which side are you on? On that note, we are at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, the ear doctor's not here to yell at us, but it's okay.
That's
Right.
So thanks for joining us.
Bullied Jared, so he let us go over.
Thanks. Like, share, subscribe, rewatch this. The best morning show on the internet. Peace.
I agree.
Oh, yeah. We back once again. This is no other than the Remix Morning Show. And we're going to get to it right here, right now. Mix a little something. Remix. Come on.
Makes no difference if it's only a game. Just for today. It's a night bird's word. She sees, she stops, nothing away.
Right here.
Tomorrow's a dream, running out of steam, leaving bits and pieces in her way.
Yeah. All right, check this out. This is a remix of the remix right here. This right here is Nightbirds. This is off the album Nightbirds, done by LaBelle back in 1974. Their biggest hit on this album was Lady Marmalade. But this right here, this was a hot one. This is a little remix right here with a little bit of Lil Baby, Durk, and Meek Mill. Still running. And we still running with the Nightbirds, and I hope y'all still running with us right here on the Remix Morning Show.